It is a process that we have to understand to avoid manipulation. The reason it has been associated as a device to control people is because of novels like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. He paints a vivid picture of the horrors of conditioning. Unfortunately, he completely misunderstands it. He sees it as a tool that leaders use to influence the masses. It is a process that everybody goes through. He was conditioned, I was conditioned, we are all conditioned. We all behave based on the contingencies of reinforcement. That's the only way the brain could have evolved, is it behaves based on consequences. Just like DNA, just like genetic material, that is the way matter works, and that is the way the brain works. B.F. Skinner is the first one to incorporate evolutionary theory in his psychology. He is the first scientist. And as a scientist, you come up with conclusions that go against cultural presuppositions. So your viewpoints are vilified and condemned. This has happened time and time again and is only explained by conditioning. Carl Rogers was conditioned to find conditioning manipulative. He read Brave New World probably. That probably shaped his behavior. Also growing up in this culture with the concepts of freedom and dignity, which people misunderstand. Freedom is just avoiding aversive control. You're still being controlled by positive controls. It's not true freedom. It's just you don't recognize if you get money for something, you think you're free. If you get sex for something, you think you're free. Well, everybody likes different things. Sex, money, food. Some things reinforce people, some things don't. It all depends on the person. People think they're free if they have positive controls. They think they're being manipulated and controlled when they have aversive controls. They're never being free. And the concept of dignity is that people don't know the causes for behavior. Every person can achieve if given the right circumstances. Sorry, people hate that. People have been conditioned to vilify that. That's the reason B.F. Skinner gets vilified and condemned. Because there's a process for behavior. That makes perfect sense evolutionarily. It doesn't make any sense in our culture the way people are conditioned. Rogers vilified and condemned him. And like all misunderstandings, he argued against the conclusions. Nothing on the science, nothing on the evidence. No, he argued the conclusions, and society reinforces superstition, so he was reinforced. He didn't want to be manipulated. He didn't realize that the only way to avoid manipulation is to understand conditioning, that he was being manipulated and he was being conditioned. It's easy to be objective and notice that other people are being conditioned. People don't notice themselves. Aldous Huxley, oh, everybody's conditioned except for him. That is absolutely predictable. No, a thought does not cause the behavior. It's not a tangible thing. A thought goes along with the behavior. When things go along with things, that's superstitious behavior when you attribute causality to it. And that's what people do. Do you ever think something and not do it? Wouldn't a cause have to happen 100% of the time to be a cause? Of course. But it doesn't. Thoughts don't cause behavior. They're not tangible items. Thoughts go along with behavior. Thoughts are triggered and a behavior is triggered. The thought goes along with the behavior. People superstitiously think of it as a cause. They don't understand superstition. Same thing with emotions. You don't run from a bear because you're afraid. You run from a bear and are afraid. Well, I don't know if people run from a bear, but if that is evolutionarily advantageous, that is the way it happens. You trigger an emotion and a behavior. People attribute causality to it because they happen together. If they understood superstition, they would understand this. They don't. People aren't taught conditioning, so they reject conditioning. And it's really a shame because it's the only way people are going to ever avoid being manipulated. And right now we live in a dogmatic society that really is perpetuating a lot of atrocities, and it is all attributable to a lack of understanding. It's really a catch-22 because people really despise conditioning, so they won't accept it. Yet they have to accept it to really feel better, be happy. Basically, people have been conditioned to reject conditioning. People that can look at religion and see all the problems that it causes, they don't understand that they are creating just as many problems with their superstitious behavior. They've just moved God from creating the universe to creating them. They use things like free will and made up explanations for things. Conditioning is not a tool of manipulation. Conditioning is a process that we have to understand to avoid manipulation. I think the brain connections are already formed in a lot of people, but I recommend About Behaviorism by B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner was Humanist of the Year for a reason. Conditioning is not a tool of manipulation. Conditioning is a natural process that you have to understand in order to avoid manipulation.